We're going to just let other people join as they are able to this morning. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes. I know most of you are pretty familiar with Zoom at this point, but I know that there are always a few people who aren't as familiar. So if you are looking at the screen and it kind of looks like you're on the Brady Bunch show, you are in speaker view, right? Or you are in gallery view. And so if you click at the top right-hand corner of your screen, there is a button that says speaker view. And when you do that, it should just highlight the person who is talking. And we're going to manage some of that behind the scenes as well. But that way it's a little less distracting than looking at 25 or more people all the time. So there's that. If you'd like, you could also change your name. It looks like most people have their name on their screen, which is great. If you are wondering how to do that though, you can right click on your name and Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. So you can go ahead and rename yourself if you'd like to. We do love to be able to see each other. And so you guys, you know me well enough to know that between the forums and my campaign training events that I always ask people to jump on camera, especially if you're talking, if you have the ability to turn on your camera, if you're asking a question or something like that. It's great for us to be able to see each other. It just makes it feel a little bit more real and kind of fun to be in front of each other versus just looking at blank screens all the time. So, okay, so I think that is it. We do have a jam-packed hour, and so I do want to get started. We're really excited about putting this on for you this morning. Our committee by Workforce Committee, including Tara Grunhove, Kathy Jules, Brandy Nelson, Bob Mahold, we decided to do this second community forum pretty quickly after the last one because a lot of the information that we found from our initial survey and then the feedback that we got after our first forum led to this topic of employee engagement. And so I'm going to let Tara kind of take it away. Last time she was our moderator and we invited her to come back again. She did such a great job. And so please welcome Tara Grunhove. Tara, thank you so much for agreeing to do this again this morning. And I will turn it over to you now.
Awesome, thanks Jess. So before I dive in as well, we really want to encourage everyone to use the chat function. With so many people on, using chat's a great way not only to engage with the content, so if you're hearing something or you have a comment about something or an idea, please throw that into chat and everyone can pay attention to that as well. But also, please put your questions in chat. We're hoping to have just a few minutes at the end where we might be able to answer questions. So if you put questions in there, we've got some moderators that are paying attention and we'll call those out. We may ask those questions during the speaker or we may come back to them later. But just to make sure everyone knows where the chat function is and to get us warmed up, please type in if you're working from your home office or your office today into the chat. Awesome. All right. This is a sharp group. We all know where chat is. That's awesome. Okay. So our last community forum, as Jess mentioned, we touched on the topic of employee engagement and there was significant interest for us to dive a little bit deeper. So, you know, in addition to that, the Gallup organization, which is known for research, has been monitoring employee engagement across the country very closely prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, but they just conducted a new survey in June. They conducted one shortly after the pandemic hit our country and saw kind of an ironic spike in employee engagement, I think around just the adrenaline and coming together around the crisis. But what we're finding is that, and what Gallup found in June is that that's starting to wane. People are starting to get tired, leaders are getting tired, and some of the things that we were doing in the middle of the heightened part of the crisis is maybe, you know, we're slipping a little bit in some of those things that were working for us. And in fact, employees right now are feeling less prepared to do their job, feeling less clear about the plan of action moving forward, and less informed overall, which is really impacting whether or not they feel the organization cares about their overall well-being. In the coming months, employee engagement is likely to be tested even more and is more important than ever for the future of our organizations. So United Way has been building tools, processes, systems, and opportunities for employers to build employee engagement through and beyond the traditional United Way campaign. And today we'll not only hear about how employers are focusing on engaging and taking care of their employees, but also how United Way has been partnering in different ways to help employers with those employee engagement efforts. I think a lot of times we think about United Way, we think about fundraising in its own silo and bucket, but really United Way has been partnering in so many different ways. So we have a number of local experts today ready to answer our questions. And if we move on too quickly, like I said, please throw your questions into chat, and our moderators will help us circle back as we have time. So as I mentioned, United Way has been partnering in the last few years to help employers connect and engage with their employees. And I recently heard about a strategy that Marco had put into place pre-COVID during their workplace giving campaign. We've invited Trevor Akovic, Vice President of Managed Services for Marco, to tell us more about that.
Hello everyone, I'm Trevor Akovic from Marco. I couldn't be with you in person today, but I wanted to send an important message about some of the exciting things that we've done here at Marco, engaging young leaders, young individuals in our organization. It is a challenging task, I would say, and we've been on this path for a number of years now. And you know, what used to be when I started here at Marco, I would always listen to whatever the message came out from our top executives. But that just isn't quite the case any longer. And so what we've learned over the years, engaging young individuals and leaders in our organization, is that we need to connect with them at a level in their peer groups. And so we've really adjusted the way that we conduct our workplace campaign here at Marco to really connect the executive message into that group of peers at whatever level, whether it's young people, Gen Xers, baby boomers, but connecting people at their peer group level with that important message has really been beneficial to us. Our key executive, Jeff, still gives an overall message, but there's a lot of ground level work that gets conducted behind or underneath that message to really engage in a meaningful way for young people. A couple of other things that we've found to be real successful is oftentimes young people, they want to have an outcome to a gift. And so we've incorporated virtual drawings where we buy prizes and then we sell chances at those prizes. That is a way of donation, and I think that's underutilized in some other workplace campaigns, and it's really a best practice to consider. The other is young people also want to know that they're having an impact, and so we conduct a organizational match, meaning if an individual gives a donation, usually their first time, or they increase their donation, we'll do a corporate match of that donation to show that young individual how much we appreciate them stepping out of the shadows and beginning their journey of giving back to the communities in which they live. And so those have been just two key ways that we've worked to engage the different demographics within our company, but really most specifically the young leaders in our organization, as they're a very up and coming large dynamic within Marco's network. And so I wanted to share that message with you today. It's what I would share if I were there with you, but because I can't take it and add it to the rest of the day, and best wishes to you and your campaigns.
So, you know, isn't it interesting how innovative Marco was in connecting with their giving with, and then also providing a platform for connecting peers and enhancing communication. And in fact, you know, Bremer has actually been working the last few years to put systems in place to achieve this employee connection and engagement through community giving as well. Lisa Maurer, Senior Vice President of Banking with Bremer Bank, is with us. And I understand, Lisa, that Bremer's been using a platform called Philanthropy Cloud for the past couple of years. Can you share with us a little bit about it and how this has benefited your employee engagement strategy?
Yes. Bremer has a purpose that we've stated, and that's cultivating thriving communities. And as you know, we're also in the field of banking, which is a very technology-oriented field, and a lot of the advancements take place in the form of technology. So we were really thrilled when we were asked to be a pilot for Salesforce Philanthropy Cloud, as it gave us a chance to not only use the technology for our business, but also for our community activities. And so Bremer does conduct its business over 3-state area, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. And it gave us the ability to unite under one platform to really understand and know what employees were doing and making an impact across our whole footprint. Whereas before, our United Way campaigns were held in different communities, and it was really hard for us to get a grasp on all the philanthropy and volunteerism that was happening among our employee base. But Philanthropy Cloud enabled us to bring it all together. It's also really fortunate that we implemented it when we did, because it gives us a platform for the 2020 campaign when we're operating in a COVID work environment and many of our employees are working remotely. So during our first year with Philanthropy Cloud, we really used it for a lot of good. Our United Way our annual campaign, we were finally able to do it all the same week, all employees, all locations, all at the same time. And it really felt good for us as a company to be able to do that. We were able to have the efficiency of using the same overarching messages of United Way and all the good things they do for their community. We were able to use that efficiently together, but then we were able to still bring in that local message about the local needs and incorporate local faces so that we kept it personal to our own community. And so that was really a great way to bring us together. It really kept us engaged together pulling in one direction. We also were really engaged in 2019 around a new brand. And so we used the energy of that branding and pulled it into the campaign. And if you gave $75 or more, you got these awesome Bremer socks, limited edition. It was the only way you got them. It was also our 75th anniversary since we were founded in 1943 by Otto Bremer. So we were celebrating that, and that's where the number 75 came in. Well, overall, in the end, we exceeded our goal as a company, and so it really was by far the most successful campaign we've had in our history. And the company, Bremer, matched the employee donations dollar for dollar, so our gifts were doubled. And then we also want to emphasize that even though the Philanthropy Cloud pulls it all together in one place, the funds still go to our local market. And so the St. Cloud United Way office got the biggest check they've gotten from us in several years. So it was really a great, they saw a nice increase over the prior years. So it was really a great success. It was also nice for us to have Philanthropy Cloud in place for us to just develop spur of the moment campaigns. So when COVID-19 hit and there were a lot of needs in our community that were coming about as a result of that, we were within 72 hours able to get a campaign on for a United Way COVID-19 response fund through the Philanthropy Cloud. And all employees were encouraged to give. It was a time of the year that we all were receiving incentive pay or bonus in addition to our regular salary. And we also had a little bit of fund money we were given to by the company for our efforts around the PPP loan program. And many people channeled those extra dollars to this response fund, and we were able to give, in combination with employee and company gifts, 100,000 more to the United Way.
You know, Lisa, I love how you've used the platform to bring the company together as a whole, despite the fact that you're quite spread out over 3 states. And you've leveraged the system to not only increase giving, but launch your brand, connect employees. And it sounds like it has really allowed you to pivot quickly.
Yes.
You know, to respond to, is there anything else you wanted to share around employee engagement and what's been happening this year?
Sure. Another thing that I think really brings us together is when we get our hands busy together. And so we've used it to communicate the opportunities to to volunteer. Some of it, so it's really been used for our actions. We used in 2019, we worked together as a company to pack up 5,000 backpacks. And so we had sessions where we packed up backpacks to help kids be ready for school. Those were distributed to 65 of our offices and distributed to kids in those communities. So that was really fun. We also worked together with the Twin Cities United Way, and we're a sponsor where there were 40,000 backpacks packed for that large metropolitan area. So that was really another special way for us to pull together and to announce it and to also, you know, bring about the results. And then in 2020, we plan to have a similar theme. We won't be able to get together and physically pack packs, but we are going to be supporting the development of welcome home kits, which is in line with our goals around affordable housing. And so families will receive a kit when they're moving into a safe place to live to help them make that transition. And then another thing that we're really uniting around is after George Floyd's death, we really made it very clear we need to pave a path to a more equitable future. And taking action is something that we've stated in our goals that we need to do. Our employees have been given twice as many hours of volunteer time to engage with cultures that are different from their own. And that will be a way through Philanthropy Cloud that we can not only track it, be accountable to it, but also really get energized by all the ways that we can carry out actions in this area. So we really used it in good ways.
Yeah, you know, Lisa, how powerful to have a system in place that allowed you to communicate with all employees in a consistent and clear way. I know at Coburn's we have a system called Achievers. It's a recognition platform, but we've really leveraged that in some similar ways to communicate and engage with the employees. And having those systems in place really can allow us to connect, you know, for some of the larger businesses who are across and maybe have offline employees as well. So Tony Morris is the Salesforce Philanthropy Cloud representative from Minnesota and works closely with the Greater Twin Cities United Way. And we've asked him to jump on the forum this morning just to share the top reasons why companies are looking at online digital platforms to build their employee engagement strategies. Tony.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Tara. We're so pleased with how Bremer is benefiting from Philanthropy Cloud and the impact you're able to have with this platform. It's really fantastic. As Tara mentioned, I'm Tony Morris. I work with Greater Twin Cities United Way, and my role really is to help introduce and bring Salesforce Philanthropy Cloud to employers that are focused on employee engagement and engaging with their communities. Philanthropy Cloud was actually developed in partnership between United Way and Salesforce, arguably one of the most innovative and largest technology companies in the world. So this is our platform as United Way. You know, keeping employees connected is more important and frankly more challenging than it's ever been, especially as more of us are working remotely. I don't think this is a surprise. And likewise, the community needs a lot more support for those affected by the pandemic and unrest. Part of the reason that companies are looking to Philanthropy Cloud are the ones that Lisa shared earlier, as well as connecting people across locations, sharing the impact of the good that they're doing, telling those stories, and then offering flexibility to highlight relevant and timely needs. And we heard already from Lisa about how Bremer is pivoting to do that. You know, others that we talked to recognize the changing attitudes and preferences toward giving overall. Some are able to give more time than money, and Philanthropy Cloud supports volunteerism on a real broad basis or on a very focused basis, including companies creating, promoting, and coordinating their own internal events. Others want the flexibility to give at the moment they're inspired, such as a natural disaster or other acute needs, rather than just ongoing programs. And then finally, as a company, offering employees the flexibility of choosing any cause while also highlighting those causes and events and stories that really align with your company mission and your values ties that corporate giving with individual giving. And that has a huge impact on employee engagement. And again, demonstrating that commitment to your communities has a huge impact on employee engagement as well as recruiting and retention and keeping the talent that you want to have there. So Philanthropy Cloud is a great platform to demonstrate that commitment. Last thing I'll add about it is reporting. It's great to be able to, as an employer, look at some summary reports, including the categories of where your employees are giving of their time and dollars, so you can help understand their interests and see how that affects your culture and adjust your giving as an organization as well. And that same information can be used to help support internal or external corporate social responsibility communications, if you want to highlight that, again, internally or externally. So really appreciate the opportunity to be here to introduce some of the reasons why companies are choosing Philanthropy Cloud. If you'd like to learn more, discuss the impact that this may have on your own programs, we're glad to schedule some individual discussions. Just let me, Jessica, or Larry know, or by all means, put a note in the chat. And if I may, for a quick second, I see there is a question about whether silent auctions, et cetera, can be allowed through the platform. And while there isn't an auction function, you can certainly link outside of the platform to other things. So if you want to make an auction part of a story and then link to that as part of a campaign, I know Jessica and the team here, and in our case in the Twin Cities, our campaign groups are using the platform in a lot of pretty flexible and creative ways. So I realize that's kind of a vague yes and no answer, but
Sure.
but that's some of the ways that that's being done today.
Thanks, Tony. You know, the ability to pivot, really, I think that's the kind of theme of 2020, right? Pivot. Just keep pivoting. So the ability to pivot is so valuable, and we'll continue to be challenged on that skill, that pivot skill, in the coming months. And I know no one can predict the future, and nor does anyone have the answers to around when we'll go back to normal. And honestly, let's be honest, I think that normal is not going to go back. It's going to be a new normal for us moving forward. So next, we're going to hear from Lee Hurd. Lee is the Executive Vice President for Bursch Travel. Lee and her team have been faced with a unique and really difficult situation where travel has come to a halt. And in her words, they went into survival mode, working long hours to meet the needs of their clients. We've asked Lee to share about their experience and how she's building resiliency with her team. Lee?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Tara. Yeah, we of course, overnight borders shut around the world, and we had to act fast to get people home, cancel trips that were upcoming. It's been some long, hard hours still with no revenue coming in. So it's hard times for sure, but we felt like immediately we needed to set a clear vision, and we decided that no matter what, we're going to shine at the finish line. So that's been our motto, and we even created a little logo around it. We're an 18 branch organization over 5 states, so we had a little practice trying to keep people from feeling like they were on an island alone. But overnight we had 80 islands when everybody had to go home to work. So so we felt like if we shared with them that no matter what, we want to shine at the finish line. We then created 4 new strategic initiatives that are relevant for what is happening right now. And to keep people engaged, we decided to divide the team up and create 4 teams and put them each on a strategic initiative. In fact, right after this call, we have initiative number 2 meeting. And then the employees are gonna buy in, and they're gonna help create the action plan so they can help put it forward. If they help build it, then they can help action it. So we're pretty excited about that. And then another thing that we did is we felt like we wanted to give them a place where they could talk to us about what their weeks were like, since it was really difficult and they were at home alone. So we created a weekly work log that they filled in every Friday and sent back to us. And it's funny because you know, our owner's like, that'll be great, we can make sure they stay at task. And I'm thinking, I want to make sure everybody's okay, you know. So in the work log, we asked them what clients they contacted, tell us what training you took, and maybe a tidbit you learned so we could share it with everybody else, a success story from the week, a struggle that you maybe had, and how can we help if you struggled. And then we asked them, what have they done for themselves that week? And tell us something fun that they did. So it literally forced them to find time for themselves also. And we do a little book club. So one of the questions was asking what book they were reading, and then to set a single goal for the next week so that they had something to look forward to for the next week.
Lee, I love that. I was just listening to a podcast by Andy Stanley, who's one of my favorite leadership speakers, and he was saying that in the absence of certainty, clarity is perceived as strong leadership. And that's exactly what you're providing with that. So Lee, what are you learning about your employees in that exercise, and what are they telling you about how they're doing?
It was fun getting them. Some, wasn't all good news. Everybody struggled and struggled deeply. So it wasn't all good news, but people tried to be creative. I had people writing in different color ink. They type in ink. They put, just trying to bring some creativity to it. But what was interesting is we thought we were getting it to make sure they stayed on task and that they were okay. But as it turns out, they're the ones that found value in it for themselves. They said that they had a place to go to organize their feelings. Instead of just having it in their head and trying to sort out, why do I feel this way? They could write it down. They also said setting a goal for the next week gave them hope. So they really found hope and healing in this whole process. And then we could take, as we looked at all 80 coming in, we could look at what some of the overarching issues were and share that. And then they said they felt good because other people were feeling the same way as them. And they didn't know that until we said, yeah, it's okay. I cried 3 times this week. And like, okay, that's all right. So did everybody else. So it made people feel comfortable in tough times.
Yeah, what's beautiful about that, Lee, is you're really recognizing the humanity of your employees. And the work log is brilliant. What a simple but powerful tool. So Lee, so we owe her a thank you because she's graciously and generously offered to share that tool with us, and Jess is going to include that in the follow-up email. I also just see in comments, I had a request for me to repeat the quote that I gave by Andy Stanley. So in the absence of certainty, clarity is perceived as strong leadership. And we can provide clarity for our employees even when we don't have the answers. And I think that's one of the most important things we can do as leaders in this time. And on that note, we've asked Michelle Henderson, owner of Bad Cat Digital, to speak about her experience as a small business owner. As we all know, small businesses have been hit very hard in the last several months, and Michelle's no exception to that. But is someone who continues to innovate in her ways of looking for new ways to support her team and her customers. Michelle, can you share with us this morning about how you've had to adjust and how you're looking forward?
Absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me, and thank you, Tara, for the wonderful introduction. I hope I can live up to that. The biggest thing that we did right from the beginning was increase our financial transparency. I had been doing quarterly updates on just high-level financials for the team. I changed those to monthly during a team meeting and opened up for questions in a team meeting. Most often, questions would come later in one-to-ones as people brought their individual concerns to the forefront. We also had to find a different way to team build. We had been doing gatherings and happy hours and birthday parties, and we had to do something different. So we played games during the team meeting, online scavenger hunts on Google, themed show and tells. I've made up this categories game where people came up with objects from their home that fit categories but started with the same letter. So a book, a movie, a knickknack that all started with K or something. And we learned a lot about each other, and people got to show off things that they don't normally talk about at work. It was really lovely. We also increased our use of productivity and communication tools. Google Suite has a video conferencing tool. I know everybody loves Zoom, but we're Google people over here. So we used a lot of our Google Suite tools that we were already paying for, so we didn't have to pay for Zoom. And then until everybody else started using Zoom. We also use Slack, which is a chat tool, and it allows for different channels of chat, so you can have themed conversations. We have a random chatter, like, you know, water cooler chat kind of stuff, things that give people a break from the daily grind. And we also, this is all led by team members. We also had, like, we do a lot of work with stock photography. So a lot of people search for stock photography, and a lot of stock photography is ridiculous. So we had a daily funny finds, craziest stock photo of the day. Somebody found this hipster guy smoking in a Christmas sweater with an axe. And then we also have one for ongoing education, digital marketing trends. And then our project management software, we use Monday, which is different than like Basecamp or Trello, but it has additional features that really kind of are intended for more of a millennial and exennial work audience. There's like a gamification of project management with llamas that race each other. I don't know, whatever. And so, but it's stuff like that that really kind of released the tension and helped everybody laugh and helped everybody stay positive. And on that note, the last big thing that we did was really promote mental health and each individual's mental health. And that's something that can be really tricky to do, because you don't want to, you know, come out and be talking about how so-and-so needs to see a therapist. So what I did was I shared my own efforts. I started seeing a therapist about halfway through the lockdown, and I was openly discussing my efforts, as well as individually encouraging and providing resources on a basis to really help foster a safe environment to talk about our mental health and managing it individually, as well as managing it as a group, and giving each other a little bit of room to be what we needed to be on any given day. So those are the things that we really focused on.
Michelle, thank you for your vulnerability, and thank you for sharing that. I think we as leaders, you know, when we can role model self-care and making sure we are taking care of ourselves, it gives the people who are, you know, who are following us or watching us, it gives them permission to think about it for themselves. You know, if we're online at 2 a.m., they'll feel pressure to be online, you know, at 2 a.m. If we're talking about getting help for ourselves, they'll maybe think about it in a different way than they would have if we just offered it to them. So I think that's amazing. And I know as we look to fall, mental health is going to be important for everybody. And with that, we're going to shift gears just a little bit and take on a topic that was having an impact prior to COVID, and now COVID has just really exacerbated the issue, and really brought it into, I think, what will be potentially a full crisis, and that's going to have wide-scale impact on our workforce, and that's the shortage of childcare. It's not a secret that daycare and childcare centers have felt that strain from COVID. And in fact, I literally just had a conversation with the owner of our childcare center, where we take our littles. And I asked her how it's going. And she said that last week she had 90 calls last week inquiring if they had openings. And she said they're going to make some changes and change some formatting of their daycare center so that they can add 9 spots. They had 90 calls. They're going to be able to add 9 spots in a few months. I asked her if they were considering building a new building or expanding and taking this as an opportunity, and she said she would love to, but she can't find staffing for what she has. So staffing for childcare is an issue, and more and more home child, you know, daycares are closing. So earlier this year, we began to hear about the struggles that daycare centers were having, and now we find our community just in this crisis. So United Way, of course, is stepping in wherever we find a crisis in our community. And they've been working and putting together a plan around this for almost a year. I'd like to invite Alexis Lepkin, the Community Impact Manager for United Way, to speak about the initiative that United Way is putting into place around childcare. Alexis?
Thanks, Tara. So as you said, childcare in our community, it is actually already in a crisis. Pre-pandemic, the available spots were slim, and workers were not really being even paid a competitive or living wage if they were working in the childcare industry. Many families were faced with the choice of staying home due to the cost and lack of availability, and we've even heard of families planning their pregnancies around openings for childcare and waiting lists. According to the state of Minnesota Center for Rural Policy Development, a study they did in 2015 to predict what the trends will be, they predicted that for the whole central region of Minnesota, they would be short over 14,000 childcare spots. Now that's bigger than our area, but that's still a huge number. And from then to now, I know that's 2015, but from then to now, the number has just continued to rise. And on the flip side of that, already since January, the state has seen over 350 known childcare closures. So this is centers and in-home. Our community's already seen 21 closures, but we know that those closures are only counted as the licenses have been surrendered, so we know there's more. Each of these closures represents a loss of jobs, parents struggling to find affordable quality care, and an unstable learning environment for these kiddos. First Children's Finance did a little bit of data collection and found that 24% of the parents that they surveyed had withdrawn from the workforce or declined employment just because they couldn't find childcare arrangements that matched their needs. So prior to COVID, Central Minnesota employers were exploring new ways to improve access to childcare so they could attract and retain young employees. But then, as we all know, March happened and the state shut down. This caused a lot of those efforts to be put on hold as people scrambled to figure out how to live in this new world. And many providers were completely shut down while others were open on a limited capacity. But that didn't change the needs. The needs were still there. So as we look at the state starting to open back up, families and providers are still faced with a lot of those unknowns, if not more. Parents are having to choose whether to go back to work or stay home because childcare is not currently available, or they can't afford the cost of it. Providers are looking closely at new regulations and wondering how they'll afford additional supplies and PPE on an already tight budget. So we said the childcare industry is in crisis. Now we find it in the middle of a complete disaster. So that's where we come in. United Way of Central Minnesota is establishing a Central Minnesota Community Child Care Fund with the objective of helping address the critical issue of increasing the availability of quality childcare, essential as our community rebuilds its economy, and also helping to assist our secondary education institutions in educating that future workforce of tomorrow. And ultimately, all of this is to help raise families out of poverty and keep them stable. This will be fluid based on developing emergent needs in the coming months and years as school plans are implemented and our economy opens back up. The goal will be to focus on sustainability, growth, and advancement. The fund will allow immediate relief to current providers so they are able to keep their doors open and implement safety regulations as mandated. It will assist in setting up new models of childcare, addressing barriers that providers have been facing for years. It will give current providers professional development opportunities and help those looking to further their education to become a childcare provider themselves. We know that there's no one-size-fits-all to this problem. Solution, that is. We also know that it will take the entire community working together to address this crisis. We're working with partners like the Initiative Foundation, First Children's Finance, Milestones, GSDC, our secondary education institutions, to come together, assess the need, and leave no stone unturned as we find a solution to help our families find quality, affordable childcare to meet their needs. We also invite anyone else that's around the room, the virtual Zoom room, to let us know any needs that they've heard or any questions, or ask any questions that they have or any ideas that they have, and help us be a part of fixing this problem.
Thank you, Alexis. So this is just getting started, the partnerships and the funding to start with solutions, and it'll take some time to address this issue. You just you mentioned if anyone has ideas or questions beyond today, I'm sure we'll put some resources in the follow-up that that Jess is sending out to everyone. But Alexis, if there are companies on today who they themselves or they have employees who are struggling to find childcare, where can they, do you have any ideas of where they can go?
The first stop would be Milestones. They have staff that work directly with providers and also work with families to find out what those needs are and help them search for what could be available out there.
Sure. Well, thank you, Alexis. I think our next speaker is going to just also remind us that the pandemic is affecting everyone differently. So, every single business is being impacted in different ways. Some childcare centers are having, slightly, different challenges. So this morning, we're fortunate to have Abdi Dusani with Blooming Kids Childcare Center to talk with us about the challenges he's had to face and how he's addressed those challenges with his employees. Abdi?
Thank you. Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Fine. Good. Good. Good morning. I hope everyone is and their loved ones are doing well in these challenging times. We have been Blooming Kids has been open for 3 years now. It's also important to mention that we stayed open in this during the COVID-19 crisis, so we can serve children of essential workers and the families that still needs the childcare. Just to start with, I think it's important to mention the numbers has changed since the COVID hit. Beginning of the year, we had about 150 kids. So as around this time last year, and right now we have about 20 kids attending the center. So that's really huge differences, and that before I talk about the challenges of staffing, I want you guys to know that, because that has changed a lot. So enrollment also suffers. You know, Alexis mentioned that the centers are getting a lot of calls now for enrollment, but that just started very recently to many of us, just because people were still unsure about if they can bring their children to work, to daycare, if they could go back to work, etc. So since January, I will say, of this year, we haven't really got a lot of enrollment compared to last year. So really no much of enrollment in there. And then staffing challenges was really a big challenges that we had to deal with. Because of the enrollment declining and the attendance declining and families staying home, for childcare staffs, we don't have the luxury and the privilege to work from home. So our employees, 100% of their time, and all of them have to be at the center to work, because we are center-based childcare, so we have to be working at the center. Because the enrollment was declining and we had less kids, we had to lay off, unfortunately, a lot of employees. At the beginning of the year, I had about 26 staff at my center. Right now, I have about 5 working at the center. Many of them I laid off to manage the center and all that, but some of them also just stayed home due to precaution for themselves, for their loved ones, just to be safe. And then we work with a lot of our employees to apply for unemployment so they can still support their families. And some of the challenges that we find out for unemployment is really and Alexis also talked about the payment, how we pay our childcare. A lot of childcares don't afford to pay really that much for their employees, unfortunately. And we were not different. So right now we have seen the challenges where employees are getting higher paycheck than they were when they were working at the childcare center. So that makes it difficult for them to really come back to work and risk them, their life, their loved ones, and their healthy by just staying home. So they continue to get unemployment. That's not to say, though, we don't have people who are not willing to come back and serve the children. We do. We are fortunate to have very compassionate, kind employees that really missed working with the kids. And they will love to come back once things are, when we have kids or so. And a lot of people talked about engaging with the employees at this tough times. I really appreciate all the inputs that people were putting in and the ideas they were sharing. Something that we have done to really engage with these employees and making sure that they're able to come back when time is right. For employees and families, we have done regular check-ins, maybe, sometimes even weekly check-ins we did to so many people. Just checking them, their loved ones, how they're doing, if everything is going well for them, etc. And on top of that, also for the employees, we offer them to continue doing their professional development, to do trainings that they're required through online, and that will come around and compensate that. So if someone is able to sit and do online trainings for, in the comfort of their home and complete that, we will pay the time and reimburse that the money of the training. Just to make sure that they're still engaged. We have done some staff meeting over the phone, even though we're not really meeting, to update the regulations, things changing, families, how families are doing, families, the kids that they were working with, how they're doing. So we have done some meetings as well, not as many as we used to when we were open. For families, we have done a lot of food deliveries, meal deliveries to families who are home. The kids love to eat pizza. And they still have to eat as well, because, even though they're home, a lot of families might not have meal and three times a day meal, kind of things like that. So we put a lot of efforts to make sure that they're still eating healthy food.
Abdi, it really sounds like you've taken such great care of your employees during this time. Are you seeing an increase now with families just in the last week or two starting to venture back, you said?
Yes, we have seen the 20 kids that I have right now. It's really coming just in August. Before that, we had about, less than 10 kids attending the center since early April. So families are coming back. We have seen a lot of, some enrollments, people calling in the last month, checking in to see if they have a space. Once things are pack up, we had a long list of waiting list before the crisis started.
Sure.
So I have no doubt that's gonna pick up again. But since January, February, around that this year, we haven't had a lot of enrollment, like I said.
Well, thank you, Abdi, for joining us today, and thank you for what you're doing. And as been talking about, childcare is so critical. So it's great to see the work that you're doing to keep your business healthy so that you can continue through this and serve the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Complicating this crisis and our ability to gain stability in the workforce is the uncertainty of the school year and how that's going to impact all of us and all of our employees. As we were putting this forum together, parents across Minnesota have been eagerly waiting to find out what the plan is for their students will be this fall. I saw a meme yesterday of Michael Scott just saying, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Oh no, it wasn't Michael Scott. It was from the movie. Anyway, so with all that uncertainty comes anxiety. So how do parents figure out how to balance work and their children's needs for education? And then how do we as employers support our employees who have school-age children in this, and yet we need productive employees, right? So to help us navigate through some of this, we've asked Amy Trombley, Director of Education Partnerships for United Way, Partner for Student Success, to join us and share what they're doing.
Thank you so very much, and good morning, everybody. As a former teacher and someone who prides themselves on being a family of educators, I'm going to want to engage you a little bit more. So I'm hopeful you don't have to turn on your cameras if you don't want to, but if you are, you can raise your hand or show a thumbs up, or you can do that with the reactions down along the bottom by just showing a hand or a thumb, and really wanting to ask some questions and to post some ideas or opportunities and have you engage and show. So even, pardon me, turning from speaker view to gallery view would be great, because the other piece I'd love for us to see is the collective impact of all of us being able to raise our hands or to show our thumbs up. So for those of you who ever were in school or had a school experience, go ahead and give us a thumbs up or raise your hand or something like that. And I asked my helper here to come give me a hug. So thank you so much. We're working from home here. And how many of you have kids or grandkids or loved ones that are going back to school or grappling around with the ideas of going back to school? And we can see this is a big reality for so many of us and so many of our families. So to answer your question, Tara, for our families and parents, first of all, please find balance. recognize the realities that we're living in and balancing raising children, teaching children, family, and working all at the same time. My kids know, like, it's okay to interrupt me, and I encourage that because I'm putting their mental health and their education first as much as I possibly can. And I'm fortunate to be able to work in an environment that allows me to do that and understand that flexibility that I need to have. Last year, during the spring, over 40% of families reported across the state that their child experienced mental health challenges due to COVID-19. So putting them first is going to be incredibly important for the future of their education and the education of our community. Can you, so here's another thumbs up kind of thing or a hand raise, develop a network, finding friends or family to help support you. If it's a neighbor safely transporting your child to and from school, or a homework buddy that you know you can rely on, even if it's a high school student next door that would check in on your third grader. Are there family parent or aunts or uncles that you have that you could connect with? A grandma that would love to read a story to their grandchild, or an aunt or uncle who could check in on a math assignment? And then do you have access to tutors or mentors? We have some amazing after-school programs, out-of-school programs here in central Minnesota that are doing amazing things. Do you have connections to the Boys and Girls Club, or an Anna Marie's Alliance, or a big brother or a big sister, or someone at Promise Neighborhood who could help you? Take the time also as parents to understand your school's plans. All of the plans across the state are based on local data. And so we need all of our schools then have the opportunity to localize and personalize the plans based on their community. So in the St. Cloud Area School District, the Sartell St. Stephen School District, and the Sauk Rapids Rice School District, all of the plans look different. Some students are attending Monday, Wednesday. Some students might be attending Monday, Tuesday. Some students might have Wednesday off. Some students might have Fridays off. Some students might be going 5 days a week. Some students may choose distance learning because of health concerns. So all of these different scenarios will pop up throughout the year and throughout all of our families. And so taking the time to understand those plans is really important as a parent, and figuring out how to best plan for you and your child and your family. And then advocating for your child and your family to know, to the nth degree, because we need to feel like we're not bothering people, but we need to advocate for them. To let our teachers know that, you know what, my child's not feeling up to reading today. That's an okay thing to do. To reach out to a school counselor and say, I'm, as a parent, struggling with this. Can you help? Please do that. Contacting the community supports we have from the Central Minnesota Mental Health Center or other organizations is something that we need to do. For our employers and employees, here are other ways. Are there maybe safe places where your kids could come to work with their parents for an hour or two? Is that even allowable for your organization if they're wearing a mask? Are there ways that we can support childcare as an organization, working together? And how much work can be done from home? What are those essential pieces? As employers, can we be flexible? Can we determine what's essential and recognizing what our parents are experiencing right now? We're trying to do the job that we pay full-time teachers to do, and our schools are supporting our children's learning, but there are times when our kids need us to help them right now, and we need to be able to do that. Right now might not be, my TikTok app isn't working, but it might be something where they're trying to get their homework done. And we need to, as employers, understand that each family's plan will look very different. And so we need to, we like to have those wonderful HR and legal practices in place, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, and one that we've never experienced. So although those policies and practices are incredibly important, we also need to recognize those limitations. And we need to work with our employees to set them up for success. We need to band together as employees and have grace for each other and recognize it truly does take a village. And we all are playing a different and very important role in our community right now, more than we ever have. And for all of us, there are a lot of ways we can support and partner for our kids across our entire community. thinking about things. Another question for you, do you have a device or devices at your business or at home that are laying around that could be donated to support families that are experiencing the digital divide? I can think right now, I think I have, you know, a dead iPad and a laptop my parents don't use anymore. Last spring, over 25,000 students in the state of Minnesota did not connect to their schools. 25,000 kids haven't been in contact with their school since last March. Sorry if I get a little choked up about that, but that's very sad. Are there ways that you could volunteer, either during your work day or work week, or ask for an hour as an employer to say, you could be a tutor online. You could be a place where employees could call into to ask for help, to get some much needed help on physics or chemistry, or even 5th grade math at times that we struggle with as parents. You know, my teacher didn't teach me to do it that way. We have to continue to support each other. Our kids need more one-on-one individualized support. We have parents or students at home who might have parents who are working or working multiple jobs when they need help, or non-English speaking parents who may not even be able to understand the content to help their child. And in so many other cases, even my own children can benefit from an additional tutor support. Or could you donate supplies for back to school? Over 60% of our students in the St. Cloud Area School District were living in poverty last year, and we only expect those numbers to be increasing this year because of COVID-19 and the layoffs that we've seen. An extra backpack or a set of markers or 10 notebooks might not be much to us, but it may be the world to some of those kids. All of this will help our kids going back to school and having a positive mindset. You know, they're going back in a way that none of us could have ever imagined. They're going back with excitement and fear and sadness and joy to see their friends, or maybe not. So we know there are so many uncertainties right now, and we know our kids need us to be strong. So please have grace, because our kids deserve it, and be smart and be safe and take care of each other and take care of our kids, because, you know, these kids only have one first day of kindergarten, or one 5th grade field trip or music concert, or one fall theater experience, or one graduation day. And if it's hard and challenging for us, I can only imagine how hard it is for each one of our kids who are living this experience in such an important and developmental time in their lives. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. You know, I'm hearing such a need for all of us to have grace for each other. I'm noticing as I'm working with people just in the community that, you know, stress is high. People's coping skills are starting to wane, and we'll need to find reserves for grace and to stay flexible with our employees, because if your child is someone who's struggling with back to school, as a parent, you're going to struggle as well, right? And those are our employees. So I just encourage everyone, we don't have time today to talk much about this, but all of you on this call are leaders. So we encourage you that as you're looking at how you're going to take care of your employees and help them to engage and stay, you know, mentally healthy, as well as safe and productive, that you're taking care of yourself. Leadership fatigue is very real in this. And so please make sure that you're taking steps to take care of yourself, whether that's taking a 5-minute walk or taking some time for mindfulness and meditation, or just going to the doctor for that annual checkup. Make sure that you are taking good care of yourself, right? Put your own air mask on first, put your own oxygen on first, and then take care of your people. So thank you again for coming, and I'm going to hand it over to Jess to close us out here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara, for being a part of this morning with us and for leading us through this conversation. I liked the diversity of all of the different viewpoints we had today, and really just being able to sort of have those tangible takeaways and, you know, kind of meeting people and employers and individuals and families where they're at right now is so important. So later today, I will send out a recap email. We'll have information in that email for all of the presenters today. So if you have any further questions or would like to continue the conversation, you'll be able to do so by contacting them directly. And then I'll also have some links and some of the pieces that our presenters are sharing with us as well for you to have as tools and resources going forward. As always, when I send it out, please feel free to send back any feedback or questions that you have, and I can help answer those or direct them as needed. Thank you all today for spending your morning with us. We appreciate you, and we really do look forward to continuing to have more forum discussions in the future. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
I really shouldn't get so choked up about talking about these things, but I just do.